We're excited to bring to you some information about the upcoming CalSEED Awards. So you probably get a notification that this webinar is being recorded. We will be sending out a recording of this webinar after we finish, and we'll also be posting it to the CalSEED website. If you have questions throughout this webinar, you can use the Q&A function in Zoom. If you scroll to either the top or the bottom, you can find that window to insert a question. We'll be going through a lot of slides, covering a lot of information. And then once we've kind of gone through everything, then we'll start to address questions that are in that chat function. Today, we are going to do an overview of the CalSEED program. We're going to talk about what the program looks like, what your journey is like as an entrepreneur. We'll go through all the eligibility criteria, how the application process works. We'll look at the review criteria. I'll go through how applications are scored. We'll go through important dates, and then we'll open everything up for Q&A. Before we jump in, I'm really happy to say that we're joined by one of our close partners from the Green Lining Institute. Sneha is on the line with us, and she will be sharing with us some information about the eligibility criteria and how applications are scored. And before we dive straight in, we have a quick poll for you. So if you could, it should pop up on the screen. Let us know where you are calling in from. Lots of Northern California, some Los Angeles, some Bay Area. A little bit from San Diego. Is there anybody from Central Valley or Central Coast? Awesome. Well, welcome to everybody who has joined us today. We're excited that you could be here with us, and we're excited to share all of this information about the CalSEED application today. Really quickly, just to talk about the organization that we're with. CalSEED is a program at New Energy Nexus. New Energy Nexus is a global organization that helps clean energy startups with funds, accelerator programs, and mentorship. We started in California, and we've expanded to 10 different countries around the world. And we all have this main mission to support diverse entrepreneurs that drive innovation and build equity into the clean energy economy. Our goal is to really make sure that the clean energy transition is equitable for everybody. CalSEED is the flagship program for New Energy Nexus. It stands for the California Sustainable Energy Entrepreneur Development Initiative. It is funded by the California electricity ratepayers. It's electricity customers. You'll hear us talk about ratepayers throughout a lot of this presentation, and that's because we really focus the funding on innovations that will bring benefits to the people of California. It's made possible through the electric program investment charge. There's a few different grant programs that come out of that source of funding, and this is made possible by the California Energy Commission. We also partner with Clean Tech Open. It's one of the first and largest clean tech accelerators. All CalSEED companies do go through their summer accelerator program. We partner with Build Momentum and Center for Sustainable Energy to bring webinars and other information sessions to CalSEED award recipients. We also partner with the Green Lining Institute on a lot of our programming and review criteria. And we also have a collaboration with the Berkeley Lab. We're part of a larger energy innovation ecosystem in California that is made up not just of CalSEED and CalTest, but at New Energy Nexus, but there's this network of what we call the clusters. They are these organizations that support clean energy entrepreneurs such as yourselves with funding, accelerator programs, mentorship. If you are anywhere in the Central Valley, I recommend you get in touch with the Blue Tech Valley. They are out of CSU Fresno. If you're anywhere around Los Angeles, there's the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. In the Bay Area, there's Activate Energy. associated mostly with Cyclotron Road and Berkeley, but they do have a national and global program. And then the Southern California Energy Innovation Network down around San Diego and the Imperial Valley. If you are in any of those areas, we highly recommend you get in touch with these clusters because they offer a lot of great resources to entrepreneurs. So the CalSEED award, you might have seen that you can win up to $600,000. There's actually two separate awards here. The first is what we call a concept award, and that is a grant of $150,000 undiluted dollars. And that kind of gets you into the program where you can receive assistance and mentorship and start to build your network within New Energy Nexus in California. Existing concept awardees can go on to compete in a business plan competition for a follow-on funding of $450,000. So this application window that's open on February 17th is to get into the program, and it's for that first award of $150,000. It's the concept award that we're looking for startups for. So what does your journey look like once you're in the CalSEED program? First, you apply online. We'll do a technical review of your application. The top scoring applications go on to receive a $150,000 grant. And then once you're in the program, we do webinars and workshops. We do trainings with some of those partners that I showed you and different kind of ecosystem events. We also have you participate in CleanTech Open's annual summer accelerator program. Coming out of the accelerator, there's a business plan competition every fall, and that's where existing CalSEED awardees can compete for that follow-on $450,000 that we call a prototype award. Some of the things that we've heard from existing companies, we have 116 companies in our portfolio, and some of the things that they really find valuable about the CalSEED program is that, there's some online training that we offer with our partners. There's a global network. New Energy Nexus is a global not-for-profit, and so we can tap you into a few different networks depending on your startup, your industry. There's a little bit of mentorship. The staff here at CalSEED works pretty closely with you with budgeting, scopes of work. There's also mentorship through the CleanTech Open Accelerator. You join a community of other clean energy innovators who are early stage startups who are facing a lot of similar challenges and decision-making hurdles. And so one thing that we've heard from our awardees is that the sense of community and camaraderie that they found among CalSEED companies has been really valuable. And we also help promote your brand. So if you have any news or anything exciting, we can help kind of amplify your messaging. The Summer Accelerator through CleanTech Open. CleanTech Open, I think, is one of the oldest CleanTech Accelerator programs. They have a curriculum that's designed to help really refine and iterate on your product market fit. They have a lot of guidance for doing customer discovery. They help you build out all the kind of financial planning and fundraising plans and messaging that you need to put together your business plan and really scale your technology. They offer a series of mentors, some kind of general kind of building a startup mentorship, and then some really specific industry mentorship. They host a couple of competitions every year where there's opportunities to win more awards. They have a really wide network of investors, other clean tech organizations, and mentors. And they also do a lot to showcase the companies that go through their accelerator. So in CalSEED, if you get a concept award, you go through this accelerator, and coming out of that accelerator, you are prepared to enter the business plan competition and compete for that follow-on funding. So that's the pitch, that's the program, that's a brief overview of what CalSEED is and what we do, but you're all here to figure out eligibility and learn about this competition that's coming up. So there are some really basic requirements to be eligible for a CalSEED award. We're looking for really early stage startups. And you have to meet each of these 5 criteria. So you have to be based in California. Your innovation has to benefit California utility ratepayers. There's that keyword again, ratepayers, utility customers, electricity customers. So there has to be some sort of social economic benefit to utility ratepayers. You have to be under a $1 million private funding cap. The intention for these funds is really to support brand new companies, to support brand new breakthrough ideas that have not received, that are kind of too early stage, that are too kind of at the very beginning of the development. So might not have access to other sources of funds for that kind of research. You have to have an innovation that's within one of the eligible technology areas. I have a couple slides on that in a little bit. And you have to be developing a technology that's currently at a technical readiness level of 2, 3, or 4. And I'll go through that in a little more detail. We encourage applications from individuals. You don't have to have an established company to apply. So if you are an individual, please apply. You are welcome to apply. Just if you're with a company or a business, just keep in mind that $1 million funding cap. If you're with, for example, a university, being affiliated with the university's funds, the university's revenue counts towards this $1 million funding cap. So if that describes you and where you are at, the key here is to apply as an individual, not as a university researcher. The goal of these funds is to really support small businesses and not kind of be a funding source for university research. And if you're not for profit, we still encourage you to apply. There's a number of non-for-profits that have applied in the past, and a few companies that have even switched to being non-for-profits. Once they kind of got through Clean Tech Open and they did some work on CalSEED, they realized that they would be better positioned as a not-for-profit. Looking at the technology areas for which technologies are available, there's a lot. There's a lot of different technology areas. I'm not going to read this slide. I just wanted to kind of show you that there's a lot of different areas that we're looking to fund, different technologies in energy storage, DER integration and load flexibility, transportation electrification is huge, as well as building decarbonization and industrial decarbonization. I wanted to mainly direct you to the CalSEED website. So on the CalSEED apply page, if you scroll about halfway down, you'll see that long list of eligible technologies in a legible form, and you can take some time on your own to kind of study and see if your technology fits within one of those areas. I will say that in the application, you're going to be asked to select which area your technology fits within, and then you'll be given an opportunity to describe in your own words what your technology is, what it does. And so even if you look at this list and you think you're kind of sort of fitting, or maybe on the side, or maybe sort of related or adjacent to any of these areas, this initial application it shouldn't take more than an hour to apply. You should apply anyway. You should pick the area that most closely fits what your technology is, and then describe in your own words what your technology is. The screening committee reads every word of your application. And so if you just explain what you are writing, there might be an opportunity for you to still be eligible. So even if you don't think you fit exactly within one of these areas, you should apply and see what happens. While I'm directing you to the CalSEED website, on that same apply page, under the second step, you'll see this green box, read the application manual. There's a link in there to a big PDF that has an application manual with all of the information we're going through in this session. A lot of the details that you need to kind of build the best application that you can. It goes through all of the process that we're talking about here, and it's just kind of a general, really good resource to figure out all the information that you need to have a successful application. So we fund a few different kinds of innovations. The big one is hardware. It's pretty straightforward. Hardware are these big physical components. They're tools or machinery, it's equipment. Examples include manufacturing equipment, sensors, components, transmission and distribution, infrastructure improvement, equipment. And to be at a TRL, technical readiness level of 2 to 4, it means that Again, really early stage. Maybe you've done some analytical studies, you have a basic proof of concept, maybe there's a little bit of functionality that you've tested in a lab, anything that, you know, if you have kind of this established piece of hardware that you know it works well, CalSEED might not be the right fit for you. But that's a pretty broad category. A lot of different things can fit within this like hardware category. We also fund software innovations, and this is a much more narrow definition for the kinds of software innovations that are eligible. So for software, we're really looking for state-of-the-art science. We're looking for breakthrough data science, advanced machine learning, advanced algorithm, advanced AI, and we're looking for solutions that provide information and analysis that's used in the planning and operation of a safe, reliable, and resilient electricity system. So it's a much more narrow kind of scope of the kinds of software innovations that are eligible for CalSEED. And examples can include smart learning from real-time data modeling, demand response or distributed energy solutions, or sophisticated analytical tools for assessing climate-related risks to the electric system. And to be within a TRL 2 to 4 of for software, that means that you might have an alpha version, you have the preliminary requirements defined, maybe some basic principles coded. So again, really super early stage, new, early on in the development of the idea. We also fund integrated solutions, and that's a combination of hardware and software with all the same caveats. So it's kind of software that makes the hardware smart. So again, the software component has to be some sort of advanced data science, machine learning, AI, that directly controls or communicates with energy-related hardware components and devices. So it includes things that leverage software and hardware to increase efficiency and resilience of the grid or solve community access issues. To be a TRL 2 to 4 for integrated solutions means that you've done some preliminary mapping or combining, there's some minimal integration, you've done some early testing, and maybe you've identified some of the key system components. So you're probably too late stage for CalSEED. If you already have an innovation that's working smoothly, it's operational, it's been debugged. If it's beyond a pilot scale, if you already have a pilot, if you're already demonstrating it somewhere, that's too late stage for CalSEED. If it's currently being manufactured, if it's certified or commercialized, it's too late stage for CalSEED. There are other sources of EPIC funding and state funding for innovations that are a little bit farther along. Again, our goal here is to fund really early stage companies. If you have a software that's classified as a beta version, if it has been successfully incorporated into a larger system, if you have a full-scale demonstration, if you're generating revenue, or if you have existing customers, these are all indications that you might be a little too late stage for CalSEED. And if you stay tuned to the end of this webinar, we'll give you some resources on where you can kind of plug into some other sources of funding. So that was a lot of information about kind of the technological aspects of the CalSEED eligibility and scoring. Another equally important part of the application has to do with energy equity and social impact and where your technology is going to end up once it's scaled. And I'd like to bring on Sneha, who is going to talk to us about what this means for CalSEED.
Great, thank you, Joy. So hello, everyone. My name is Sneha Agadi from the Green Lending Institute, and we work with New Energy Nexus and the California Energy Commission to help ensure that energy equity and social impact are key parts of the program. So social impact and energy equity are two concepts I'll go over briefly, but first I just wanted to set a little bit of context. So communities of color and other underserved groups suffer first and worst from climate change because of the legacy of discriminatory policies such as redlining. Underserved groups often lack access to clean energy programs, products, funding, and professional opportunities because of systemic barriers, and many low-income communities currently spend a larger portion of their income on energy because of current and historical policy design and implementation, and as well as exclusionary business models. So we really see CalSEED as one way to start addressing some of these disparities by both creating economic opportunities for underserved or underrepresented communities to join, as well as creating technological solutions that have a feature that inherently will increase access to the benefits of the clean energy transition, especially for communities who have historically and currently haven't been able to participate in that transition. Next slide, please. So first I'll go over two different concepts, social impact and energy equity. So the first concept is social impact, which is defined as the economic and environmental benefits of transitioning to clean energy. And in order to be selected for a CalSEED award, all applicants must be able to show how, when scaled, their proposed technology will benefit all Californian electric ratepayers. And there are several categories that this can fall into, including expanding the use of renewable energy, building a safe and resilient energy system, advancing electric technologies for businesses, buildings, and transportation, enabling a more decentralized energy grid, and for improving the affordability, health, and comfort of all California communities, and supporting California's local economies and businesses. Next slide, please. So next I'll go over another concept, which is energy equity. So it's important to note that energy equity is distinct from social impact that we talked about in the last slide. So social impact refers to the general benefits for all California ratepayers, which is very important. But when we're talking about energy equity, we're talking more about the focusing on the benefits for the communities that are most impacted by climate change and energy burdens. So equity in this context refers to the fair and just distribution of social benefits and burdens. And it's only through equity, which is a recognition that everybody's kind of starting from a different place based on the historical and the social context we live in, can we really make sure that we achieve the equal access we want to see. So more specifically for CalSEED, CalSEED defines energy equity as prioritizing technological solutions that provide affordable access to energy, greater economic opportunities, and enhanced resilience to California's disadvantaged and low-income communities, which face the highest energy and socioeconomic burdens. And within the context of this program, disadvantaged communities are defined using CalEnviroscreen, which is a mapping tool that identifies California communities that are most affected by pollution and poor socioeconomic conditions. Next slide, please. So CalSEED program is really committed to building energy equity into the foundation of how grant awardees really conceive their clean energy ideas, design their products, and run their products. So we're not really expecting people to come in with a fully fleshed out and understanding and roadmap, but rather that CalSEED will provide guidance and training to awardees on setting and achieving goals that tangibly advance energy equity through their technological innovation, as well as through their business practices as they grow their businesses. Next slide, please. So now that we've gone over the overall definitions of social impact and energy equity, I'll go over at a higher level how equity shows up in the design of CalSEED. So by equity in, we mean that we strive to have an inclusive outreach process to share information about CalSEED and encourage applicants from underrepresented backgrounds to apply. We try to have an impartial selection process, and we have both social impact and energy equity as a criteria for the award selection. And we also try to aim for more balanced award distribution throughout the state to ensure that we're really meeting the opportunity for folks that are based in different geographies. We also help develop innovations that can improve environmental health and economic conditions for disadvantaged communities at scale, and provide training and coaching to help develop community-based partnerships, as well as integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion practices into their teams. Next slide, please. So on the website, there's a lot more information here, but the main point I'll just highlight here is For the eligibility criteria, keep in mind that energy equity and technological innovation are not at odds with each other, but are both really essential to being selected for CalSEED. So in order to get a high score, a technological solution must both be feasible and then also clearly advance energy equity as well as social impact. And I have some examples here, and in the application manual, we can go into more detail. But with that, I'll pass it over to Joy to talk a little bit more about eligibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. And thank you for saying that these things are not mutually exclusive or not at odds with each other. I think it's really important to make sure that both are happening at the same time. So thank you. Okay, so how does this work? How do you apply for CalSEED? The initial applications will be open from February 17th through March 5th, and that shouldn't take more than an hour to complete. That's what we've heard from previous people who have applied, that they didn't spend more than an hour to apply. It's a pretty straightforward application. From March 5th through March 10th, we'll be doing an eligibility screen. So we'll be screening all of those initial applications for those 5 criteria that we went through. And then all the applicants that meet all of those 5 criteria will be invited back to complete a full application, which is a lot longer, and it can take anywhere from 3 to 10 hours to complete. And we'll kind of go through what each of those look like. So step 1, the first initial application that's used to determine eligibility, you will be given a number of multiple choice questions to answer about your innovation and the stage of your development. There will be places where you can describe your clean energy concept and potential benefits in your own words. We're going to ask that you disclose the amount of funding that you've raised to date, the amount of private funding that you've raised to date, so that we can assess your eligibility for being under that $1 million private funding cap. And then also we'll ask that you identify the potential for community impact. Applications that pass all of those eligibility criteria will be invited to submit a full application, which is a lot longer. This again can take 3 to 10 hours to complete. We'll ask for additional information about your clean energy concept, kind of getting a little bit more into the science and engineering. We'll ask you to elaborate on the potential benefits to California ratepayers as well as low-income disadvantaged communities. We'll ask for you to propose a scope of work for the full $150,000. Most grants usually last about 12 months. There is some wiggle room there. So just to kind of give you a frame of reference for the kind of project that we're looking for a proposal for, it's $150,000, 12 months, could be less, could be more. And then we're going to ask for information about your team and your organization. A lot more information is on the website at CalSEED Apply. And you can also find all this information so you can study it on your own and kind of read through it in the application manual. So the full applications are weighed in 3 different parts. 1/3 of the final score is based on the technological merits of your innovation. Another 1/3 of the final score is based on the potential for energy equity outcomes and social impact. And then another 1/3 of the final score is based on the team that you have and the approach that you're going to take to the work. Full applications are scored by a review committee that has subject matter experts from other accelerators and incubators, but also from government agencies, not-for-profits, think tanks. We have some venture capital review members, people who from foundations, national labs, and then professionals from engineering firms and legal firms. So there's a broad range of eyes and subject matter expertise looking at each of these applications. For each of those 3 criteria, we guide the judges on how to score your applications. And those judges that are scoring for innovation, this is the guidance that we give them. We ask them to look at what is the problem that your innovation addresses, what obstacles stand in the way of solving this problem, and how will your innovation ultimately solve this problem. They're going to consider if you've understood or presented the key technical or commercial challenges that you're facing. They're going to see if your innovation has the potential to create greater reliability, lower costs, and reduce emissions that we're looking for with the use of EPIC funds. But we're also going to ask them to consider if there are unique features about your technology that can potentially advance energy equity outcomes. We're going to ask them very broadly to see if your proposed solution is innovative. So you can see these questions again in the application manual. And the application manual is also the definition of social impact and energy equity. And for the judges who are evaluating your application for social impact and equity, energy equity, we're going to also ask them to evaluate if your proposed technology has some sort of special or unique feature that can advance energy equity. We're going to ask them to see how your innovation could potentially benefit electricity ratepayers, and to what extent the innovation will increase access to clean energy technologies within low-income disadvantaged communities. So this, if your technology can reduce air pollution or create economic opportunities, we're going to guide them to evaluate to what extent your innovation can reduce air pollution, and if potentially in a low-income disadvantaged community, rural tribal communities or heavy polluted communities. We're going to ask that they look at if your innovation or if your plan has the potential to create economic opportunities like job creation or contracting, supplier diversity, or any other sort of economic development. So those are things to keep in mind as you're answering those questions on the application. And finally, for the judges who are reviewing your application for your team and your approach, they're going to look to make sure that what you propose is in a logical step-by-step fashion, and they're going to evaluate if the tasks that you describe are reasonable for the budget and the timeline that you have proposed. They're going to look at the qualities that your team has that will enable you to complete the work that you've proposed. And then they're going to look at if your team has the skills necessary for further product development and continued success, knowing full well that coming out of CalSEED, you'll probably be hiring more people. So those are things to consider as you're answering those questions about your team and your approach. So the important dates to keep in mind coming up: on February 17th, the application window opens and it closes at midnight, 11:59 p.m. on March 5th. That's a Sunday. That week, the CalSEED team and an eligibility panel will review all the applications to determine which ones are eligible for CalSEED funding. And then on March 10th, you should receive notification either way. And if you pass all of the eligibility criteria, you'll be invited to submit a full application that needs to be completed by March 28th. So there's a few weeks in there to hopefully spend some time, 3 to 10 hours to fill out the full application. And then in April is when we're going to convene the review committee, and they're going to score those completed full applications. Final notification about awards is dependent on a few different variables. We send a recommendation package to the California Energy Commission for them to approve all the high scoring applications that we receive. And so awards are not actually official until they're approved at a CEC business meeting. We call it gavelled in. They're gavelled in by the commissioners. So those are all of your important dates. This is again on the website and in the application manual. Some best practices for filling out your application. Reviewing and editing your responses is key. Just in general, making it as easy as possible for people to understand your technology, and addressing exactly what the question is asking for. You can find the application questions on the website also, but they're kind of deliberately written. So answering the question specifically, write a draft, review it, edit it, maybe step away for a moment, come back, read it again, edit it, and kind of do this until you feel like it's in a good spot. At the bottom of the screen, there's an online platform where you will be entering all of your answers to the questions. There's a save button at the bottom of the screen. hit that frequently. It's really challenging for us to recover work that hasn't been saved. So please save your work very frequently. We've included a lot of prompts and instructions in the application questions, and those are there for a reason. So pay attention to all the little icons that'll give you information and prompts for answering each of the questions. Read the terms and conditions for the CalSEED contract. This is a government grant. This is state funding. And so there are some terms and conditions. There's a link to the terms and conditions on the CalSEED website. And at the end of the application, there's some check boxes about, all the information that you have provided in the application is true. It's yours. You own the IP. Make sure that you understand those check boxes before you hit submit. And with that, that is all that we have for the presentation. I'm guessing there's lots of questions. Maybe we can open it up if people have questions.
Yes, I'm going to ask that you use the raise hand function if you have a question, and then I will unmute you. And we're going to be recording these questions, so we'll be writing them down, and we're going to share them on the CalSEED website after, so that everyone can view the questions that you have. And again, this is being recorded. So if you want to watch this again, if there was a question that you didn't catch, you can also do that. So please do raise your hand, and I will unmute you so that you can ask your questions. Thank you. And I think I'm going to start with Payam, so I will unmute you first.
Thanks for the presentation. I have a question. If we have received SBIR funding more than 1 million, are we eligible or not?
That is public funding.
Right.
So it does not apply towards the private funding cap.
Okay, so we are eligible.
Yes, as long as the private funding cap remains the same. That's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you. All right, Josh. Josh, you can speak if you'd like. All right, I'm going to go to Sharoz.
Can you hear me? I'm speaking.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay. Hi, this is Josh with Carbon Blade. My question is there a limit to the number of awardees for the concept award?
That's a good question. I'm going to add this to the presentation. We're looking to fund 33 companies this year. Thank you for asking. I'm going to add that to this.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. We're going to move on to Sharoz.
Yes. Hey guys, thank you for putting this together. It was very informative. I had a thought though. I just was wondering if somebody is not a US citizen I think my question is that can I be proactive about the eligibility phase of the application, in the sense that, for example, if you need some recommendation letter, should I be preparing for the eligibility phase of the process, or is it just questions about what your project is, so that you know what you're doing, and in terms of in relation to the various levels of criteria that you explained, that should be sufficient for that phase.
So I heard a couple different questions here. One is in relation to citizenship, and another is in relation to letters of support. You don't have to be a United States citizen to apply. The criteria is that you're located in California. When it comes time, there's a little bit of time between when you apply and you go through this application process, it's scored, it's approved, and then should you get through when you sign the contract, there's a little bit more you need to do before you get to signing the contract in terms of being in good standing with the Secretary of State of California. But there are no citizenship requirements for the CalSEED funding. in relation or to answer your question about letters of recommendation, letters of support, there is a space in the application. If you have a letter of support, if you have a letter of recommendation, there is an opportunity to upload those and provide those. It's not part of the standard criteria, and it's not required that you have a letter of recommendation or a letter of support. It looks good if you have them, but it's not required. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, it does. I was just thinking, like, is there any documentation that I need to prepare for, including letters of recommendation, but not restricted to it? But it seems like it's like the eligibility phase of the application is more only about what your project is and how it fits the criteria. So
Yeah, it's what the technology is, and then the potential for energy equity and social impact. Those are the kind of the two big things that you want to focus on at this stage.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to go to Amadin.
Hi, Amadin.
I've given you permission to talk, Amadin, but if you are a few more moments. Okay, I'm going to move on to Brandon.
Hello,
Oh,
can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay.
hi, Amadin.
Oh,
there you
yes,
go.
hi. Okay, so the question I want to ask is, how large does the team have to be? Because I know it's one of the criteria. And then how in depth, as in like, can your team be hypothetical? As in like, that's just the question I want to ask. How large does your team have to be during this stage, the initial stage?
I'm not understanding how much is the what?
How big does your team have to be?
Oh, the team. Gotcha.
Yes, because I know it's one of the criteria, one of the 3 criteria that you guys are using.
Gotcha. Sorry, I think my connection was cutting out for a second. There's not a requirement on the size of your team. And the way we guide the judges and the way they're going to evaluate the team is if, based on the scope of work that you propose, if you have kind of the expertise on your team to fulfill that scope of work. So it's not so much a question about size of the team. It's a question of, does the team have experience doing this kind of work in the past?
Okay.
Thank you for that.
All right, Brandon, you're up next.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello, are you listening to me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, thank you for putting this together. My question is, how many applicants were in the last class, or some average of that?
Oh, the last solicitation that we did in 2021, there were about 170 applicants. In the past, that's kind of the low end. In the past, we have received as many as 400 applicants.
Thank you.
So there's quite a range there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and up next we have Stefan.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. So my question relates to the relationship between CalSEED and CalTestBed. Both are run, by the California Energy Commission. And can you be eligible for both, or do you see CalSEED as being the stepping stone to CalTest?
That's a great question. And the short answer is the latter. So CalSEED and CalTestBed, within New Energy Nexus, we kind of consider them sister programs because we are so kind of closely related. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that go from CalSEED into CalTestBed. There's some big differences, and it's mostly TRL. Testbed is a higher TRL because you need kind of this working functioning gadget to go into the testbed to be evaluated or run tests on. So there is kind of a logical sequence to that. There's always exceptions to this. And I think because the technologies that we're funding are so unique, sometimes it seems as though each case is the exception. But we do ask that, you can't be working hypothetical situation, if you're accepted to both CalSEED and CalTestBed, you can't be working on your CalTestBed contract while your CalSEED contract is underway. So we do internally try to keep a firewall between the two programs, just in terms of time and sequence. So if you are interested in both, you should apply to both. But if you are fortunate to be in both, we will be asking you to kind of stagger out the work between the two programs.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stefan. Kate, you're up next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Kate.
Hey, I'm wondering if we need to have our company already incorporated at the time of application. I'm working on this now, and these things take some time.
No, not at the time of application. And we don't want you to rush into incorporating just for the CalSEED application. Because
I'm doing it anyway, but yeah.
Well, we want you to take your time and be thoughtful with the decisions that you're making in that. So you don't have to be incorporated at the time of application. By the time you get into contract, that's when it's good to be incorporated.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Kate. Next up is Ryan.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you coming here and doing this. My question is about we have I know it's very early and that you guys are open to very early ideas, but if we're trying to pitch up like a platform technology, I'm working on a material. What does that look like? Like, are there any suggestions on how to pitch not a material that can be applied to multiple industries and multiple ideas, and how to synthesize that into one application? I definitely can target it towards those we fit within the topics, but I don't know if there's a better way to do that, or if it's okay being this early on and not really having our direct application yet, but I just wanted to broach that.
That's a really good question. I think a lot of companies face that. And truth be told, we see companies come into CalSEED with one idea, and then partway through their project, they're going to pivot towards a different market or even tweak the product a little bit to fit a different market. So we're definitely, recognize and encourage people to pivot their technology based on what's going to work best. In terms of applying in the application, I think it's worth mentioning the potential kind of end uses or applications for the technology. But there will be an opportunity, at least in the full application, to dig into the science a little bit and kind of work through or discuss how you'd like to work through some of the maybe technical challenges that you're gonna try to confront with this funding. Best advice, I think, is to focus a little bit on the science, and then maybe list out the potential applications for the product once you've kind of fleshed it out a little bit more.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Good question.
Thank you. Next up is Ash.
Hi, I have a question. So my question is that if the team is already working on the prototype towards demonstration of the technology, is the team eligible to submit the application? Because it seems you have two part, conceptualization and then 450 for prototyping. I was wondering if the team is already working on the prototype to demonstrate the technology. Is the team eligible to submit the application? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. And it's one of those kind of edge cases. So you're still eligible to apply if you have a prototype, because I think, prototypes can also be in different stages of development. So if you have a prototype that still needs some further validation, still needs some tweaking, if it still needs some work, you're still eligible for CalSEED. we do call the first $150,000 a concept award and the follow-on $450,000 prototype award. But not everybody fits within those kind of guidelines. That's just kind of what we call the awards, and they're supposed to kind of be indicative of the stage of development that you're in. But there's always, again, there's always a little bit of an exception to these rules. So it's not hard and fast that you can't have a prototype to be in CalSEED, or you need a prototype to have a prototype award. It's really a question of kind of where you're at in your stage of development. One thing I think for innovations where you're trying out something totally new, and you don't maybe fit into those molds, there are opportunities in the application to explain in your own words the stage of development that you're in. And so when you're answering that question, if you could frame your stage of development in a way that is super specific to the technology that you're developing, that's going to help the people reviewing the application evaluate if you are at the right stage for CalSEED.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Achim. Achim, you have to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. Okay, I'm going to move on to Robert.
Hi.
Hi,
My
Robert.
question is, if you have team members who are in two different states, one is in California, one is outside.
That's fine. I think, it's important that the lead applicant is based in California, and it's important that, when you go to sign a contract, that you have some like physical headquarters or base in California. But, sometimes, I mean, we absolutely understand that people work with experts from all over the world. So
if the two team members are part of a company, the company just needs to be registered in California and have a location in California.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Next up is Manu. Make sure.
Hello.
Yeah.
So this may sound, I think this may be a super obvious question. I've been looking at the application and all the questions it asks, and there's the statement of work plan. So at a very general level, given that this is a concept award, what are the kind of transitions, say, do you expect this award to help move from, say, TRL 203 to 45? What is the outcome? The questions are great, and I think I can answer many of the questions, but now that in the lucky state that we have an award, what do we do with it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's, I think what I've seen is that the kind of amount of advancement that companies make with a CalSEED award is so dependent on the kind of technology that you have. Some technologies, $150,000 goes a really far way. They can knock out a prototype, they can test it, they have all these great results. And then there's other companies, like, for example, battery companies, where they tweak the membrane of a battery a little bit and they get from a TRL 2 to 3 over the course of a year. It's really specific to the technology that you have. I will say that the overall goal of CalSEED is to help fill that like clean tech valley of death, right? It's to help you get from having just kind of a white paper, an idea, thought, having this idea of your innovation, and then, there's this big kind of gap of funding until you're ready to go to market. And so we're trying to fill that gap and help get you from where you are now to the next stage, and help you get to a point, with the help of Clean Tech Open and Green Lighting Institute and Build Momentum, all of our partners on this program. hopefully we're giving you other tools that you can use to continue to fundraise if, for additional funds. And it's a really kind of big, vague answer, but it's a little challenging to put a numerical value to it because it really depends on the kind of technology that you have.
One last question before I drop off. In the happy events that we're able to raise funds during this program, if we exit the program with more than $1 million in funding, are we disqualified from applying for the prototype award?
No, and congratulations. We want you to continue to raise money.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for your questions.
And yeah, we have a quick poll at the end. So once we wrap up, we'll be doing a poll. So if you could just stay on for a few more minutes, as we'd love to hear where you've heard about our program from. But next we have Patricia.
Hi.
Hi,
How you
Patricia.
guys? Hi, thank you so much for doing this and taking my questions. So my questions around the technology levels. We are a hardware company, but we have Internet of Things inside integration into our hardware. We have completed the alpha prototype done, so we want to make sure that meets the qualifications for the technology level TR2.
It might be a little late stage. And without it's hard to say without reading your full application. And these integrated solutions, especially IoT, are a little more challenging to evaluate because there's different parts to your innovation, and one part might be really far along and another part might not be as far along. So when you fill out the application, I think when you explain the stage of development, just be really crisp and clear about what aspect of the technology you would like to use CalSEED funds for.
Okay, we want to use the funds for the prototype for the hardware.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but we'll definitely be crystal clear.
Yeah, and so if you're just looking to build a prototype, maybe you are within TRL 2 to 4. If you have some basic functionality tested and you're ready to go.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and our last question is Joseph.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, I was wondering if you're going to require any budget information and how detailed it would need to be, if so.
We do not require budget information for the application. We will ask you for how much private money you've raised so far. But the proposed budget for the CalSEED scope of work, that comes later on during onboarding, and that's related to kind of the payment schedule that we have for the grant program. So you don't have to parse out the $150,000 into different line items at this stage.
I see. I was granted a small portion of an award from a UC, and they bought some equipment for us. Would that go under the previous funding? The university was awarded, and we're in a partnership, so they were able to fund just a small portion of what I'm working on out of their grant.
I see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And to be honest, there is a committee that will review eligibility. So
it was a very small amount, so it wouldn't disqualify me.
I think if you disclose it, there's an opportunity to explain what it's for. If you put it in the application, that would be best. And then the eligibility committee can take a closer look at that and do the evaluation. But don't let that keep you from applying.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And that looks like all of our questions. We are also at time. So Joy, do you have anything else to add before I ask them to do the final poll questions?
Yeah, let me speed through to the last. Okay. So really quick, big thank you to Lindsay for managing the Zoom and all the logistics for this webinar. Big thank you to Sneha for joining us and sharing with us about some of the eligibility criteria and how important energy equity is. If you have questions about this application or the process, the timelines, the program, or anything, it's best to email info@calseed.fund. There's a few of us that monitor that email address, so the likelihood of you getting an answer quickly is really good. And other than that, we stay connected. CalSEED, it's specific to California, it's specific to early stage funders. There's always opportunities for clean tech innovation through our New Energy Nexus network. There, we have a mailing list, we have a Slack community. We also encourage you to join the Empower Innovation Network. This is a platform. It was kind of a one-stop shop for everything clean tech that the CEC has put together, and they advertise a lot of kind of other public funding opportunities and networking opportunities through that platform. And get in touch with your local regional innovation cluster. There's always people around to help you get started. So thank you everybody so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you all. And then there's just 2 more polls. We just love to hear how you heard about us. So I'll launch the first one. If you want to fill that out really quickly. This is to see who's actually still paying attention. Great. Let's give you a few more seconds to fill out that poll. I'd really love to know where you heard about us. Okay. So close to everyone on the call answering. Okay, I'm going to end that poll. And then the next one is going to be our final one. There we go. Real quick, how did you hear about today's info session? Cool. Thank you, thank you.
That's great information.
Yeah, super great information for us so we can do better outreach and so that we can reach all types of entrepreneurs throughout the state of California and to tell them about our program. Okay. Well, thank you all. I'm going to end that poll now. And I'm going to end the recording.